As the professional development facilitator for 1 year, I worked with students and teachers alike. My room was used for small group instruction, distance learning classes for students, and after school for staff professional development activities. It was equipped with several computers and video conferencing equipment. Chiquita and Autumn often came to use the computers. Their classroom teacher allowed her students to move throughout the building in search of computers when it was time for writer's workshop, as they only had 4 working computers in their room. Many an afternoon, Autumn with her long, dazzling red hair and Chiquita with her wild black mop would pop their heads in my door to ask to use my computers. I would invite them in and ask about their work. They would talk enthusiastically about their writing, so enthusiastically that I would have to cut them off so they could get started. Every so often, they would consult me about spelling of a word or wording, and I shared with them the history of certain words and the ideas, and they would listen attentively. Our collaborative efforts were a pleasure and allowed us to get to know each other very well. They were learning to read and write and also to collaborate with each other. The freedom to work this way allowed them to grow in a way that no standardized test could ever quantify.
During the school year, I had more boys than girls in my classroom. One of the realities of a large urban district is the student mobility rate. In this year, as the girls moved out, the boys moved in. One of the boys was James. James was very soft-spoken, polite, and extremely honest. James and I had our issues throughout the school year, but I could always count on him to tell me the truth. It's much easier to work with a child who is honest and can accept the consequences for his behavior. James lived with these consequences quite often. James was very easily distracted. He constantly wanted to play. He was obviously immature, even for a 6-year-old. James had another habit that wasn't quite as endearing. It started with crayon scribbling on the bookshelf. Who would have defaced the property in our classroom? I knew I could ask one particular student, Honest James. I asked, "James, did you scribble on the bookshelf?" With a straight look into my eyes and a simple yes, James gained my respect anew. After determining a consequence with James' mom, we decided daily communication would be to James' benefit. James knew his mom and I cared about him, and with the communication, his behavior improved. It wasn't perfect, but we had many successes. James left first grade reading above grade level and more focused in math. James knew his mom and I cared about him, and that motivated him to make better choices.
Journal entry, Monday, November 29th. I needed to teach the students how to write a set of directions. Many of the students know about carving jack-o'-lanterns from their field trips to the pumpkin patch. I put the students into groups with a marker and a piece of chart paper. Each group had a short period of time to record their set of directions. I circulated around the room, noticing that each of the groups was recording their directions slightly differently. As each group shared, we pointed out the various strengths of each group. One group had an especially interesting title, another group used transition words, and another group used particularly interesting words like carve and scoop. Others wrapped up their set of directions with a nice conclusion sentence. After collecting the charts, I cut and pasted them to create a composite set of directions. I presented this set of directions as a model for how the students might want to write their sets of directions in the future. We achieve so much more when we collaborate with each other rather than compete.